Hello, I'm Kevin from the Greenery Garden Home in Heidelberg. Today I'm going to be running through some of the various citrus varieties that are suitable for growing in small spaces in your garden or indeed in pots. So stay tuned. So with garden spaces generally becoming smaller and people living now in apartments or units and have limited garden space, it means that it makes it difficult to grow full-size fruit trees for those of us who love fruit trees in the garden. And there's a great range now of dwarf fruit trees available, and particularly citrus trees for those of us who love a range of lemons and oranges and mandarins. They're all being grafted onto rootstocks which limit the growth of the tree and keep them compact. So it makes them ideal for growing in containers of various types and also in small spaces in gardens. So the tree itself is more compact, the fruit is normal size, and it doesn't lose any of its taste or any of its sweetness due to it being grafted onto a smaller rootstock. It just means the tree is a bit smaller. Most dwarf citrus average around about 1.5 metres high by 1 metre wide. So you can see the advantages in having those smaller trees growing in those smaller areas. Of course, citrus trees have various other benefits apart from producing lots of nice fruit. They also have the dark green glossy leaves and sweet scented white flowers before the fruit starts to form, which can be a bonus if you have them in an area where you might be sitting outdoors on a warm summer evening enjoying the perfume from the flowers itself. So there's a whole range of different varieties. So I have in my hand a dwarf Imperial Mandarin, and this will produce normal seedless fruit, as the Imperial Mandarin is renowned for, easily peeled fruit, and the dwarf trees do get quite a good crop, quite a heavy crop of fruit on the tree itself. So this is one of the more popular mandarin varieties. There are other types of mandarin which also come as dwarf trees. There is a dwarf Japanese seedless variety which is a little bit sweeter and the fruit's a little larger. But any of them are suitable for growing in pots as long as they're growing in an open sunny position. If you plant them into shaded areas, then they tend not to flower very well. And of course, no flowers means no fruit. So just make sure they're getting lots and lots of sun, at least 5 to 6 hours sun a day. Feed them regularly. We normally suggest a citrus food, and I'll run through some of those shortly. Regular waterings through dry weather, and particularly when they're starting to produce fruit in the summer. Don't allow the plant to dry out, because if you do, then your fruit tends to be dry inside. So regular watering, full sun position, use a good quality potting mix when you're potting them into any container. Make sure there's good adequate drainage in the bottom of the containers that you're using to allow the excess water to drain away, and the plant will perform beautifully. So this is the Imperial Mandarin. Look out for some of the other varieties. There's a range now available as dwarf trees. And who doesn't love a lemon tree in the garden? How useful are they with cooking and fruit prolifically? This is a dwarf Meyer lemon. The Meyer lemons tend to be a bit sweeter and becoming very popular now for different types of recipes. Meyers tend to fruit once a year, mainly in winter in Melbourne, and but when they do fruit, they produce loads and loads of fruit. So you'll have plenty to use even with a dwarf tree. The fruit, as I say, is a normal size, and the tree is compact. You can also get a Eureka lemon as a dwarf, and that is the more sour traditional type lemon. The Maya is a more compact tree naturally without it even being grafted, but these rootstocks that they're grafted onto will keep the tree, you know, from growing too large. So ideal for balconies, ideal for small courtyards, smaller garden areas, or wherever you'd like to grow them, ensuring again that they're getting plenty of sun, regular watering and regular feeding. Another reasonably new lemon variety, which is also a dwarf, is a variety called Lemonicious. And it is a variety of the Maya lemon, but again is suitable for growing in pots. Doesn't mind where it's used as long as it is getting lots of sun. So it's a good balcony plant. It doesn't matter the height of the balcony, elevated balconies, just maintain the water to them. Be conscious of really strong winds with citrus. Sometimes on a hot day, particularly, the foliage can burn if the plant's not getting adequate water. But generally they will grow quite happily in a pot, in an open sunny position, various elevations, and require very, very little pruning because of their compact habit, and look terrific when they're in full fruit in a pot. And you can marry these up with whatever sort of decorative pot you might like. They grow happily in a range of containers from glazed through to terracotta pots, providing they have adequate drainage in the pot to allow the excess water out. All of us love the lemon tree in the garden, and it's probably one of the most popular fruit trees in Australia for that reason. But don't be shied away from some of the other varieties. This is a Washington Naval orange, which also is a dwarf variety, producing full-size navel fruits, and can be used again in those areas where you have limited space. So look out for some of the more unusual type varieties of citrus trees that you may not normally grow in the garden. Everybody tends to have a lemon tree. You can also get dwarf lime varieties. Limes are very popular for drinks these days, and the oranges will give you lots of juicy fruit in the middle of winter, and ideal for juicing, of course. So look out for some of the other dwarf varieties of citrus as well. I can't stress enough the importance of fertilising your plants on a regular basis to encourage better flowers and better fruiting and more fruit generally. Particularly for, you know, citrus trees, they're hungry plants, they need regular feeding. Something like the Grow Better fruit and citrus food, I would recommend using 2 to 3 times through the warmer months of the year, just to keep the plant ticking along, keep the leaves nice and green, keep it healthy, and encourage that fruit that is worth waiting for. So this is a powder. It's generally applied to the soil above the root system and watered in thoroughly. Avoid getting it on the leaves and close to the stem of the plant to reduce the risk of burning. And that's good practice with any fertilising that you might do in the garden. Water it in thoroughly after it's applied. Easy to use, just sprinkle on. Store it out of the weather if you have excess left in the bag. Keep it in the shed or a garage, obviously, and keep it dry. But make sure you use it regularly, and it can be used in pots, it can be used in the garden, and it has good bonus things like fish and potash, which also encourage better growth. Potash is ideal for promoting fruiting and flowering in all different sorts of plants. So I'd recommend this on a regular basis. It is a more natural type fertiliser too, for those who don't like using the stronger chemical fertilisers. So safe one to use, good for the environment, great for the plants. For those of us who prefer something a little bit easier, a set and forget fertiliser, Osmocote is renowned for that. This is a specific Osmocote for fruit and citrus trees. Osmocote make a range of different products for different plants. This is geared to promoting, you know, the growth and the flowers and the fruit in citrus trees. The beauty of Osmocote, it's what they call a controlled release fertiliser, so it feeds over an extended period of time. This particular one would generally last up to about 6 months. So for those of us who tend to forget to feed the plants on a regular basis, this may make it easier for you. You'd probably apply some in the springtime when the plants are starting to grow, and you could give a top up in the autumn as well, just to keep them going. The beauty of Osmocote, because it's controlled release, the fertiliser is less likely to burn. And every time you water the plant, water the soil, the fertiliser leaches out of the little round pellets and is carried into the root system where it's needed. So can be mixed in with the potty mix if you're growing your citrus in pots, or it can be applied to the top of the soil. Both of them are just as effective as each other. Osmocote is worthwhile using even in the garden. You can safely use this in the garden around your plants. It's an easy fertiliser to use. There'll be a small amount that's applied according to the size of the tree that you are feeding, but particularly good for flowering and fruiting citrus trees. All citrus trees are prone to a flying insect pest called citrus gall wasp. It causes swellings or galls in the stem and the branches of the tree, which can make it look pretty ugly over time if left untreated. The most effective way of controlling the gall wasp is to remove the swellings as they appear in the tree itself. Tend to avoid leaving them too long, because they will sort of increase in numbers on the tree itself. This is a insect trap. It's a sticky glue trap. It doesn't contain any nasty chemicals, but it does have a pheromone which encourages the insect and attracts the insect to the trap. The insect lands on the trap and it gets stuck on the glue, so it is an effective natural way of controlling the insect pests. These generally last about 3 to 4 months, so you could hang them in the tree through the season when the insects are more prevalent. So starting around about September in Melbourne, and after 3 to 4 months, the trap will become full of insects, and normally you just dispose of it and replace it if necessary. So it's an effective way of controlling the insect. It is a common insect on citrus trees. If the insect wasn't controlled, the tree would still produce fruit. This tends to just help trap a lot of the insects so that the tree may produce better fruit and look better in the long run. So we have these here in store. Look out for them. They're called an insect trap. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video on growing dwarf citrus in gardens and containers. Just remember, if you have any other questions that you might like to ask any of the horticultural staff at the Greenery Garden Home, we'll be happy to help you. We can make recommendations on the types of fruit trees or citrus trees that might be suitable for your garden, the types of fertilisers you need to use, and indeed the types of potting mixes that are best for your particular trees. Remember, we're open 6.5 days a week, and we look forward to seeing you in store. Thanks for watching.